Outlaw Lawyer.
Welcome into the Outlaw Lawyer. Morgan Patrick with you, consumer advocate, and we also have Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. Again, practicing attorneys here in North Carolina and managing partners again at the firm. They have offices in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, and Gastonia. And we have special guests on set with us today. Josh, I'll let you take it away.
Today we're talking about abortion. That's not what we were originally going to talk about this week. But yesterday, or I guess 2 days ago, we're in the studio Wednesday morning. So on Monday, there was a big leak, a big news story. What happened?
So, the case of Texas Law and Dodds versus Jackson Women's Health was already argued in front of the Supreme Court, and there will be a decision issued by the Supreme Court within the next couple of months. However, someone at the Supreme Court leaked the full draft opinion.
Yeah, so that was, as far as I know, and according to media reports, that's something that's never happened before. The Supreme Court is a very small institution when compared to Congress and the executive branch, small amount of justices, clerks, staff, so a very small branch of government. They usually operate under very, would you say, congenial, very friendly operation. And a news outlet was able to obtain a copy of a working draft of a very controversial Supreme Court case that we've already talked about on the Outlaw Lawyer. So this is a case that we have mentioned a time or two. We've talked about Roe v. Wade on the Outlaw Lawyer, and we're gonna revisit those a little bit today before we get into the nuts and bolts of our discussion. But we had another script for the show, trashed it.
A lot of work on that script.
Right, meaningless now because this
hours. Yeah, the research I did for that show was legendary, and we had to.
So if you listen to the Outlaw Lawyer a lot, hopefully the time that we spend preparing for the show comes through. Here again, we pivoted. We figured this is all that anybody's going to be talking about, and we do try to make a show that's timely and useful. So we wanted to delve all the way into this issue. I know the Chief Justice has ordered an investigation to figure out how the leak happened. And before we get to talk about substantially what we've learned because of the leak, I feel like we should just talk about how odd it is that this has happened. I know there's a lot of speculation on how it happened and who did it and what their purposes are. And I guess this is a good time to remind you that here on our show, we all have our personal beliefs. You know, we have some conservative folks, we have some more liberal folks. So we're not apolitical. But when we come here, we really just try to talk about the law, you know, what we're looking at, what's before, you know, a court, the justices here at the Supreme Court. So we really just try to look at what's happening and try to analyze it as attorneys. I think this is one of those topics where it may be a little bit hard to completely shield our hand and what we personally believe. But, you know, we're not here to judge anybody. We're not here to say abortion's right, abortion's wrong. We're really here just to look at legally, what are we looking at? And as attorneys, you know, try to inform non-attorneys like kind of how we should be reading this and what we find interesting, what's not interesting, because I got a feeling the national media outlets, a lot of them probably won't take the time to maybe read the whole opinion. So we have.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
Yeah, and to kind of look at it in historic framework. But I think the first thing we should talk about is just the leak. I've never seen anything like this happen before. I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but this is, we've talked about how the institution of the Supreme Court is kind of changing. I think it's, you know, I don't know. I don't know, Taylor, if you get that same feeling.
I mean, you do get the feeling that it's changing a little bit, but it's kind of still an unprecedented thing that this leak has happened. If this was coming from the executive branch, you know, we wouldn't be too shocked. If this was coming from a leak from Congress, we wouldn't be too shocked. But the fact that the Supreme Court had a leak, and not just a little leak, like it's not just like a paragraph of the opinion, it is the entire first draft of the opinion with the judges' names on it, all the details, their case notes, their references, it's everything. So
which for viewer reference is 98 pages.
Yeah, we have all the pages right here. It's 98 of these.
So I'm surprised it hasn't happened before, honestly.
So Politico is the news outlet that leaked this full draft. They also had a separate article about previous leaks in the Supreme Court. There hasn't been anything like this where it's a full draft. However, there have been previous leaks where reporters have clearly known what was happening.
Sure. I mean, you've got when you got like we have no political beliefs, right? You talk about
You're
it's gonna be hard.
Switzerland. You're Switzerland.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're saying it's going to be hard to hide our. I guarantee you, no one's going to have any idea what I think. I'm very confident in that. But when you're dealing with, you've got justices that do have their own political leanings. Their clerks have political leanings. People are human. Definitely going to be leaks, like 100%.
And I think even if they're leaks, though, it's never been to this degree. Like, okay, yeah, somebody might have known. Okay, hey, just so you know, this is about to happen. Like, it might have been those side things, but
of
the whole
case.
thing is crazy.
Well, and I think who leaked really, if we ever find out, will determine how we view this. Some of the previous leaks have been people in like the typesetting office, which is a very different like position and motive for a leak than if this were a clerk or a clerk with justice approval or a justice themselves.
After this happened, I went to the one place you probably shouldn't go after something like this happens.
Reddit?
Facebook?
I went to Twitter.
Oh, God, even worse.
I went to Twitter just to see, how different talking heads or whoever, and if you were on the liberal side, this was a conservative who did this, and these were all the reasons. And if you were a super conservative talking head, it was a Democrat, a liberal person who did this, and this is why they did it. And everybody's extremely sure, just reading those
How many
different
of those
stuff.
opinions are unique, and how many are like the one person puts it out, and then everybody just follows?
I don't know. But
I've seen everything. People have been on both sides saying, the other side did it just to try to force the court's hand. Like, both sides are claiming that. And then a lot of people are already using it for midterm elections.
oh, I'm sure.
Like,
Both ways.
Both ways. Everybody's already worked it into their campaign. People are already like,
Pretty
okay.
interesting. You have something that can be used both ways.
Yeah.
That in of itself is pretty unique.
So I was sort of familiar with how the Supreme Court operates, but I looked at this draft and we know a couple things that we know it's not final, right? We know it's a
Yes.
draft. There's no concurring opinions. There's no
Dissents, which there will be
Strong
strong.
and there'll be very
dissents.
strong dissents. And that all comes later, right? They're circulating, and we've been trying to guess when we would get a verdict, and I think we kind of know that the Supreme Court has a conservative slant right now for the first time in my life, I think, unless maybe when I was a baby, I don't know, in the early 70s,
I think what's interesting too is that this draft doesn't even say who the majority is. So it's just Alito's decision, but it's not saying who's joining him in that decision. And that's, of course, a lot of things news media is speculating about right now, trying to figure out which justices are even joining him in this.
And this was a first draft. It was circulated February 10th, so it's already May. We don't know what's happened since
then.
this first draft.
Yeah. So there's a lot we don't know, and people, depending on what side, if you're against abortion, then you think this is awesome, right? You think this is finally, my side is being told, and if you're for abortion, this is terrible, And again, we don't know what this will look like when it's actually finalized. Justices can still change votes, right? They may have taken an informal vote after oral arguments back in, when were oral arguments? 2 months
That's a good
ago?
question.
60 to 90 days
I feel like
ago.
we've been talking about this
Forever.
for a
Yeah.
while.
So oral arguments were a while ago. And there's usually an informal process where they'll vote, but they're not done. And they're still not done. That's one of the theories behind the leak, is maybe to get justices thinking about their vote.
Put some pressure.
And
Which is bad.
wider implications, just seeing people protesting outside the Supreme Court, if that's going to sway a Supreme Court justice.
You think people will protest?
There's already, they've already barricaded the Supreme Court.
We were at the Hurricanes playoff game Monday night. So I went to work, went to the Hurricanes game, came home, went directly to bed because that's late for me. And so I had no idea what had happened Monday. And then Tuesday I rolled in and started kind of figuring out, what had happened. But big news cycle item will be for a while. Kind of put Ukraine on the back burner in the major news cycles. But it's going to be an interesting, I say interesting every week, like 99 times.
Well, it is.
That's pretty interesting, though. It's interesting that you've called. You're very aware of the things that.
Well, every time I say it,
fixing your head.
I don't know. I'll get my thesaurus out. This is a very fascinating area of law that we're going to be talking about today. But again, I do want to tell everybody we're here to talk about just the law. We're not necessarily advocating a certain position. We may actually play devil's advocate. So, like Joe said, he may ask a bunch of questions that makes you think he's one way or the other when really he's on the other side. So we're looking at this strictly from a legal position, and that's what we're going to do after the break.
All right. Well, we got a lot to get to. The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer. You can find them at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. They're the managing partners there, practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. In studio with us this week and on the radio, Cassandra Nicholas and Taylor Scruggs-Smith. I want to remind everybody, too, if you're listening on the radio, 106.1, 4 o'clock on Saturdays, right here in Raleigh. In Durham, The Truth, that'll go Saturday at 1 o'clock. And then in Smithfield, WTSB, that's Saturday at 2. We're back with more of The Outlaw Lawyer right after this.